Hey, it's Boo Ray Perry from Tampa, Florida, and welcome back to another edition of Coffee and Cameras, where I'm just going to talk about something that's interesting to me this week. I should have a jingle for this bit, right? Coffee and Cameras. Troy and Abbott in the morning. If you got that reference, make a comment about it. That was such a great show. All right, so here's what I want to talk about today, and that's the latest update to the Fuji X-H2 firmware. This is update number 3.0. They just pushed it out, I think, last week. And here's the thing about Fuji. Here's what's so great about Fuji. They have always been really good about pushing out their firmware, right? One of the few companies that will frequently update an older camera. When they come out with something new, they'll actually push that out for all of their cameras. I think it's fantastic. But this is what's so great about this. I made a video a while back about how the X-H2 was locking up. All right, I had the brand new Fuji X-H2 and it was locking up. So I made a video about it, and people, yes, I've experienced this too, and we troubleshooted and we tried all these different things. We didn't know if it was a flash I was using or if it was the remote that I was using or what it might be. And we could not come to a solid solution on this problem, and it turns out that it was a problem with the firmware. I contacted Fuji, I reached out to them, I told them about it, they asked me for details, and lo and behold, a few weeks later, a firmware update came out, and there it was. They fixed it. And my camera has not locked up since. And it's just so nice to be able to contact a camera company and tell them there's a problem with their camera, and they get on it, right? They fix it. But this firmware update, wow, this one has some very cool stuff in it. And once again, I had sitting right here on my desk, and I have a little thing where I put notes of videos that I want to make. And one of the notes was that I wanted to make a video about the command dials on the Fuji X-H2 and how they don't do everything that they should do. And now I can't make the video because Fuji fixed it. Fuji came in and fixed the problem before I could make the video. Thank you, Fuji. So now I'm making this video instead where I talk about how they fix it. So a couple of things they put in this update that are so great. First of all, if you want to use the new Fuji app, you have to have this update. So this update is for every camera. Every camera has an update, as far as I know, that can use the new Fuji app. So you don't have to just be an X-H2 user. The new app, by the way, my experience so far has been great. It connects fast. It connects clean. Within a few minutes, I was connecting to my X100V and taking self-portraits, as I want to do. And so the new app, fantastic, because I think we all know that the old app was, yeah, right. So the new app is great so far, and the new connection is great, so you got to download the software for that. Also, in the X-H2, they've improved the algorithm and the AI for focusing, and I want to make sure I've got this right, so I want to read it straight from the notes. And it says, it's been greatly improved in situations that were difficult to detect with the current firmware, such as backlighting or looking sideways or small subjects, regardless of the scene. And they've added a new category, insect and drone detection, that will help you to detect these two things with the focus, right? They already have face, eyes, animal, bird, automobile, motorcycle and bike, airplane, train, Waldo. They've got everything you need, but they're still adding more into it. And they have increased the dynamic tracking performance. And what that means is if you're using constant focus with your X-H2, it will focus faster, basically. I never use constant focus because it just scares me. I like the feel. I like that, you know, when it locks the focus and you get the thing, it tells you you're locked in focus. That makes me comfortable. Constant focus, I've only used in a few situations like sports, for example. So if you're a sports shooter, you probably use constant focus all the time. But they've improved that as well. But here was the big one. Here was the one that I just love that they fixed. So I've complained about this before, and I was going to make a whole video about it. If you're in manual mode with the Fuji X-H2, your aperture is controlled by your aperture ring, your shutter speed is controlled by your front dial, and your back dial does nothing. It is dead. And I never understood why that was. You only have two dials. Why would you make one of them just dead? And you can change it. You couldn't make the dial do anything. Now, if it was up to me, in manual mode, I'd have the back dial be ISO. Let's control the exposure triangle. let's have the aperture on the lens, let's have the shutter speed on the front dial, and the ISO on the back dial. And this makes sense too, because when you think about it, when you're working with your camera, for most people, I think, using the front dial is more intuitive maybe than the back dial. I don't know, I guess it depends on who you are. So you would set up the way that you want it to be. Hey, why not be able to switch between the two and do whatever you want? That'd be great too. But it didn't work that way. So if you wanted to control the ISO with the back dial, you had to push the ISO button to activate a dial that isn't actually doing anything. So why can't we just have it automatically be on the ISO dial? Well, guess what? Now we can, because they pushed out new firmware. So now you can go in and set it up. And I'll show you how to do it. I'll put the pictures up right here so you can do it. So what you do is you go to the wrench, and then on the first page, you scroll down to the command dial settings, and you click over, and you will see right there the PSAM. You go down to manual, you click over, and then you will see at the front dial and the back dial. But you'll notice something new. There are 3 different front dial settings. That's something else that they did. I'm going to show you how to set that up in just a second. There are 3 different front dial settings now. So you take that front dial and you set it to whatever you want it to be. Like I want it to be the shutter speed. But sometimes I want it to be something else. So you can set the other 2 to whatever you want them to be. I've got my front dial set to shutter speed, and then my second 2 are set to, I don't know, exposure compensation or something. I don't know, because I don't really use this feature, but it's great that it's there. Then scroll down to the bottom, back dial, there it is right there, ISO. So switch that and make it ISO. And now, when you are in manual mode, aperture on the front ring, shutter speed here, ISO here, everything you need, right at your fingertips, good to go. Now, you notice how I said that now the front dial can be 3 different things. So you need to be able to do that. That's a switch now. You need to designate something to be the switch. So if you go back into your menu system again, and go to your function FN setting. It's on the same page as your command dial setting. And then click over and then scroll down to, say, your ISO button. Because now we're not going to need the ISO button anymore if it's going to be automatically on that dial for us. So go to the ISO button, click over, and you get a long menu of stuff. Go to page 8, third from the top, front command dial switch. Now, if you make your ISO button front command dial switch, or any button on your camera that you want to make front command dial switch, now when you press that button, the front command dial will switch between the 3 things that you selected back on the first screen that we were working with. So when you think about this, this is really awesome, because one of the complaints, and I made a video about this as well, one of the complaints that we had with the X-H2 was the dials were no longer clickable. On the X8, on the XT5, the XT4, the dials, they serve a dual purpose. You can use the dial, and if you click it, it can be something else. But not on the X-H2. And the reason for this makes sense. It's because the X-H2 is more water sealed. So they took the click out because that's a way that water could get into the camera. But we didn't like losing that feature. Well, now we don't really have to lose that feature, because now the front dial can be 3 different things. So instead of the front dial being 2 and the back dial being 2 for a total of 4, now the back dial is 1 and the front dial can be any one of 3. So we still have the same usability that we have with the XT line, but we have the increased water sensitivity and water proofing of the X-H2, the flagship camera. So, I mean, this is a huge update. It really is. Like, I went to get it because I wanted to use the new Fuji app, and then when I got in there and I read the notes, I was like, oh my God, they're fixing so many things with this update, and it is so wonderful to see this happen. It is so wonderful to see them listen to the community and fix these little things that make the camera just a little bit more usable for us, right? It just makes you, I don't know, it makes you feel like you're connected to your camera company. And so I can't applaud Fuji enough for this update. This is a great update for the camera, and right now I have no complaints. If you can think of anything that the Fuji X-H2 is not doing right, give me a comment and tell me about it, because that was the last of my complaints, was that problem right there, I think, with the dials. I think? Yeah. Offhand, I can't really think of anything else I would like them to fix. If you can, leave me a comment. Also, do not forget to follow me on Instagram. I have a great Instagram channel. I post a lot of funny stuff there. Join my group on Facebook. It's called Pro Photo Talk with Blu-ray Perry. That's a good community. And also be sure and check out all of my gear on my gear cage. The links are down on my gear cage, on my gear page. The links are down in the description. Just go down there and check out all my gear. If you click on one of those links and you end up purchasing something, I make a couple of dollars, and it helps me to pay for the software and the stuff that I have to use to keep this channel alive, and I really do appreciate it. Real quick though, I just want to say that if you're watching this and you're a Fuji X100V user, or F or the S or the T, I'm getting a lot of images coming in for the next image review. So even if you're not participating in this review, you should check these videos out. I'll put a link up here. Check these videos out where I have people send in images that they've shot, and then I talk about them, and I talk about ways to improve the images. It's a great education opportunity, and it's a great community as well. And I am going to be opening this up. I haven't figured out exactly how I'm going to do it yet, but I'm working on it. I do want to open it up and let other cameras come in. So X-H2 users and X-T5 users and X-T4s and X-T30s and whatever. I want to try and open this up to let more images come in. The problem is I know that when I open it up to other cameras that I'm going to get a whole lot more images, and that means I can talk about fewer images. So people like when I talk about the images, so I'm trying to figure out how to work around that. You know, how to make it manageable and more likely that you'll have your images talked about here on the show. So, all right, that's it. That's it for Coffee and Cameras today. That's all I got, is that if you haven't downloaded this update for your camera, you absolutely need to do it right away, because shooting in manual mode just became a whole lot easier with the Fuji X-H2. All right, stick around. I'll be back soon.